welcome back to another renovation diary, our first renovation diary of 2021. This month, if you saw our 2021 renovation plans video, is very much kind of a snagging and finishing month. We had some projects that we were working on before Christmas that we need to kind of finish off and just kind of touch up a few bits and pieces so that they'll be finally finished. It is Monday the 11th of January, I think, and there is actually no, that's a lie. I was about to say there's no plans for DIY today, but there actually is. James has got some plans to do some DIY this evening to do with his room on the top floor that he was working on before Christmas. He is building a bookcase from scratch to go across the whole of one wall. So he's planning on working on that this evening because we had the birchwood turn up. I'll spin you around in a second because it's just like classic here. You think you're gonna start a new year, turn over a new leaf, start a new chapter, and yeah, think, you know, it's gonna be, we're gonna keep the dining room tidy. I mean, it's actually not tidy right now, but you know, we're gonna make it tidy. We're gonna keep it tidy. We're not gonna have loads of DIY stuff everywhere. And we are week 2 of January, and yeah. But I also wanted just to turn the camera on a second because we have also just had our first ever log delivery here. So we've never had a log delivery before just because we've not really had anywhere to put it. But at the weekend, I should have filmed it really, but James actually built a log store for us, and he built it from our old floorboards, which I think is just amazing. Like, what a way to be sustainable and use stuff that you already own. But yeah, so he has made this and it was amazing. I should have filmed it, but I can show you at least. I think what a great way to use like leftover floorboards, and yeah, not having to buy new materials and actually making use of it. And it actually looks really smart. Even James was a bit kind of like unsure. He said he was making it up as he went along and he just wasn't sure if it was going to be any good. So that's the birch wood that he's had delivered today. This came this morning at like, I don't know, 8:20, but we didn't realise it was coming that early. So I just got out of the shower and yeah, I just got out of the shower and was in my dressing gown, and James had just gone in the shower, and this guy was like, oh, well, I want help. And I was thinking, well, buddy, you're not gonna get it from me, I'm afraid. So, and then James was like, what was that, Lou? Like ages after this guy had been, and I was like, yeah, he wanted help, and James was like, yeah, well, I'm not ready, so. And then this is the log store, so it's like directly opposite our front door, so we can see that, like, so it's not far for us to travel when we need some. And yeah, James made that out of old floorboards. I'll get a bit closer once I've stacked all the wood in it, but very helpful. I'm sure we're gonna have more wood than we are going to have log store, but hey ho. Last night, James started trying to break these down. So these are the beech, big sheets of wood that we had delivered yesterday morning that I showed you. Obviously, we don't want them resting up here all week. We obviously can't take them upstairs to do the work. So James has had to kind of measure and map out exactly how he needs to kind of cut these and everything to A, make his bookcase, but B, also to take it upstairs. So this is what he has done last night, and then obviously later this evening he's going to do the last of these. I'm a little bit nervous for him, like what if it's not the right sizes? It'd be a bit of a waste of money and time, wouldn't it? I just wanted to share with you the bookcase wall. Don't know why, but I've just not really filmed a lot. That being said, I didn't really want to share a lot of this room until it's finished, so I can do a bit more of a reveal. So this is like the most you're seeing here. So you can kind of see the colour on the walls, which is Stone Blue by Farrow & Ball. So you can kind of get a bit of a picture. But James built this bookcase himself. He didn't have instructions. He's done it all himself. He's made it with, I think, ply, but with birch ply, because I think that's the best quality and like the most strength. And I think he's got some kind of other wood that he's added on, so like this he's added on to give a nicer edge than what was there. So he's created this all himself, so it spans the whole wall with then the door in the middle, which gives a really cool effect that we're really happy with. And then to kind of make it look a bit more bespoke, some of the kind of, I think they're called like uprights, he's like put in slightly different positions and some without. So he needed to put these in because actually, even though it's a strong-ish kind of ply or wood, there would be a risk, because they're quite long shelves, of them bowing. So he needs to put some supports in, and just this looked the coolest in terms of making it the most bespoke and just, yeah, giving a really cool different effect. And the idea is then obviously when he puts his things up here, there'll be little nooks for different little things, and kind of it can look quite styled as well. So he can have like lamps up there or little plants and all sorts. But I think it's really cool. I'm like, I can't believe it. There was a moment when James was putting the structure together where he thought it was just not gonna look any good, but I think he's done a really great job. And yeah, he's even kind of built it in up the top here so it blends into the ceiling, which of course is slanted, which he said that was his biggest issue. I think that took the most kind of planning, and was the bit that I think he was kind of a little bit like, it would be easier if this wasn't here like this. So yeah, so it's all, oh geez. So it's all put together, and then he's filled kind of anything here with wood filler, and he's sanded that off. So this is kind of many nights work, and all of, well, most of last weekend as well. So I just wanted to quickly show it now whilst it's got nothing on it, like paint wise, because we are going to be painting this the same colour as the rest of the room. So he's going to be putting on the primer, the Farrow & Ball primer tonight. I don't know what I've just done to my focus. There we go. He's going to be putting on the Farrow & Ball primer tonight, or undercoat, whatever, before he then paints it stone blue this weekend. So yeah, I'll give you an update a bit further along, but I kind of just wanted to share this at least at this stage so you can get a really cool kind of before and after effect. Guys, happy February. I've got a confession to make. I'm a terrible renovator, a terrible YouTube renovator, and basically, obviously there's a massive lag between the last clip and now this one, and basically we've been really lazy. We've not done a hell of a lot. James has built his bookcase wall, which obviously was a big-ish job, but other than that, even he's not done a hell of a lot. We've just been enjoying living in the house, which has been nice in its own way, but we do need to get back on it. So this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take you upstairs and show you the finished bookcase wall, which looks amazing. James still has like a few snagging bits to do, but otherwise we're very happy with it. It looks awesome. I will also take you upstairs and show you a few more kind of small interior updates, and also share with you kind of what my next jobs are, because when this renovation diary finishes up, I'm going to pick up the camera immediately and actually start doing work. But before I do any of that, I found the most probably significant and exciting historical find to date at this house. So I'm going to take you outside and show you what that is, because yeah, it's really cool, and there's a bit of a backstory to it, and I've been able to track some people down and what have you. So it's been a pretty cool and quirky find. Actually, I'm up here and I am wearing a really flimsy outfit. I might just get a cloth. So I found that as we were taking stuff out to the car for the tip, there was stuff covering it. However, whilst there have been intermittent things covering that section of the wall across the last almost 2 years of living here, it'll be 2 years at the end of March, it has never been like fully covered all the time. So that has been there for us to see the whole time. And I guess you will have seen, obviously, as I was wiping it away, it was pretty dirty. I guess maybe the dirt might have been like thrown us off, like maybe that's what made it like less obvious, but it's quite big letters. And yeah, we've never spotted it before. And when I saw it, literally my eyes almost popped out of my head. I was absolutely so excited, and I was obviously being made to go on this tip run, and I was thinking, no, I just want to do this stuff. And I was legit like looking up the name Kelly around the early 1880s, because when I first found it, I thought possibly it was somebody that had been building the house originally. Now, our house I have done a lot of history on. I've found some really cool stuff that I would really love to share with you guys another time. But some of the things that I do know are that the land that our house, like our street, was built on was sold in like the early 1870s, and our house and the house that we're attached to doesn't appear in the 1881 census, but the rest of the houses on the street do. So they built those houses relatively quickly in between kind of like 1873 and 1881. So I've deduced therefore that ours must have been built kind of early 1880s, and I really thought that the engraved name and date in the wall said Kelly 1885. So I was trying to look up people that were kind of in the building trade in Tunbridge Wells in the 1880s that had a surname of Kelly, and yeah, I wasn't very successful finding it. And then I realized why, because then when I came back and I looked a little bit more closely, I realized that what I thought was like the 18 of the 1885, the 1 and the 8 were quite far away from each other. And when I looked more closely, I kind of thought that it was actually 1/6/85. So more like a date, like the 1st of June, 85. And I just can't imagine the Victorians doing the date in that format. So I was a little bit disappointed that it isn't from the Victorian era, because I've just been so desperate to find something of real significance. And we found like silly little bits and pieces, but like nothing really that cool to kind of share on here. Yeah, I was a bit disappointed. But then I realized it might help me solve some of kind of the house history mysteries that I haven't quite figured out yet. So I have actually found out pretty much practically everybody that has lived here or kind of owned the house. I say pretty much anybody. I know actually over time there were some lodgers, so there were possibly some other lodgers that I don't know. But ultimately I found who was living here at practically every period of time over the last 140 years. And the last, say, like 40 years before the people that sold it to us lived here, I've had my assumptions, but I've not got like fully confirmed. So basically I have a newspaper article from 1959 that says that the couple that were living here the house was basically going to be kind of like repossessed from them. So I assumed that they owned the house because they had actually lived here since the 30s. And I assumed that perhaps he might have lost his job, maybe they couldn't pay for their mortgage or what have you. And it basically said that they were hoping that they would be able to have help from the council, so basically to get a council house. And I found like subsequent articles since then. I say article, I found a subsequent letter to the local newspaper from the gentleman that used to live here until 1959, 1960, I don't know exactly. And it had his like part of his address, and I think part of his address would have been back then kind of council houses, so obviously he was given help from the council. So I knew he obviously had moved on from this house. And then I have a marriage announcement in the mid-1970s for a daughter of a couple that owned our house, and that's how I knew that they lived here in the 70s. And obviously just using kind of like common sense and just trying to build kind of the stories around things myself with like just little blots of information here and there, I kind of would like to have assumed that they probably bought the house from the bank or something in the early 1960s, and hopefully maybe they lived here across the 60s, the 70s. And then I knew from the records I found that they died in the late 80s. So again, I couldn't be sure that they lived here till the end, but you would think of that period of time, very possibly they did. So anyway, so I kind of only assumed and didn't know for sure. And then I belong to like a local Facebook group that's all about like the history of the area and stuff. And a woman was commenting on a few things, and just based on her comments, I realized that she was the daughter in the marriage announcement. And I thought about reaching out to her, but then I was like, I don't know if that's a bit weird. So I kind of left it. And then obviously when I found this inscription in the wall, it made me think possibly it is something to do with her family. So I did a little bit more digging and was able to deduce that she had a daughter called Kelly. So that gave me the confidence to reach out to her via Facebook and basically just message her and say that I'd found this, because I thought she might have been interested. I did this all in the same day that I found it, by the way, guys. I'm like, I do, like when I get like obsessed by something, like I have to find it out then and there. So I contacted her by Facebook, and quite honestly, I didn't actually expect her to respond. And the reason I say this is because I actually commented on a post, on a comment that she'd made on a post saying, oh, I think I might live in your old house, as like more of a gentle way, like just before Christmas. And she never ever responded. And I figured she either never saw the notification or she maybe just didn't really want to engage, which is totally fair enough. But because I found this inscription, I thought actually this might be kind of important to her. So I just wanted her to let her know, like, that amazingly it was still there. So I messaged her, and as I said, I wasn't really sure if she would come back to me at all. But she actually responded to me like within a minute, and she was really touched that I thought to get in contact with her and share that with her, and she asked to see a picture of it, and so I sent that to her. And subsequently I said, like, would she mind, you know, like sharing any of like her memories, and if she did, like, here was my email address. And she emailed me, and she shared some of her memories, and then said if I had any questions I could ask. So I asked her a few questions, and she didn't know the answer to all of them, and I think like she couldn't remember everything. She moved into the house when she was, I think she said, about 8 years old, and her parents did live here until they passed away, and then she sold the property on. But yeah, she was able to tell me a few nice little bits and pieces. Like, if you saw my last kind of vlog talking about the garden, I mentioned that the little garden secret path that I always love was actually built by her dad. And so just stuff like that. So anyway, this inscription I thought was really cool. Not quite as cool as the Victorian era, but really nice to be able to kind of match up to a family and know that it was from basically 1985, and she said it was her dad's handwriting. And yeah, I was really happy to find that. I just thought it was just so lovely. I'm still determined to find a lot more, but but if that is all that can be, that is all that can be. We possibly might have our extension come off that side, depending obviously what we end up doing, and that's a long way off yet. But I said to James that if we do, we're still to preserve that Kelly and the date, because I just think it's part of the house history, and I just think it's really, really cool, and like a talking point as well, particularly if it was then suddenly inside your house because you have an extension off of it. So yeah, the architect that we're going to work with, I met, like, he follows us on Instagram and had seen I'd shared it on there and said we should keep it, and I was thinking, yes, 1 point to Louisa, because James would totally not let me keep it otherwise. But if the architect says it as well, haha. So I just want to share some realities with you, to be honest. So let me come into our bedroom first of all. We have some snagging to do in here, sadly. Not wildly exciting, but I just thought really helpful to share as like just the realities of doing stuff and then having to kind of touch things up. I really didn't want to do that because obviously we've got the carpet in here, and it was a really expensive carpet, and I just don't want to risk having anything spill on it or anything, but we are gonna have to do stuff. So first of all, we don't know how James has done this, because James is so careful and he like triple checks everything. This radiator does get quite warm still, however, not warm enough really. And he realized that it's because he thinks he has put it in the wrong way round. So he's gonna have to take it out and put it back in. Oh geez, which the whole point of us putting this on the plinth in the first place was so that when this carpet was fitted, James didn't have to fit the radiator back in, because obviously you have like the radiator liquid, which is like has a color in it or something, doesn't it, like black or something, like the rust agent or something. I don't know. Anyway, not ideal. Additionally, obviously we have been home this whole time, and it's been so cold, and so we've had the heating on basically all day, every day. So it's probably a lot warmer in this house than it would usually get if we were like living a normal non-pandemic life. And just where it's heated up, obviously things have dried out, and yeah, you can see some of it here that needs to be done, but actually behind the radiator it looks really bad. So we're gonna have to do some filling and repainting. Same goes for the sides of the windows. I think I said this before, that to be fair, some of it will probably have curtains hiding it, but yeah, it's not ideal. And then this is the reality. So ideally this landing would be fully done by now, but it's not, and that's my fault. Shock horror. We do have one small interiors update. So we have our industrial light up here. I love industrial for lights. And yeah, we bought a lot from them. That's what it looks like. We wanted a shorter lead to it because we had the light that was just in place here when we got here obviously hung down quite low, and I just felt like this feels like quite a small closed in space because of the way they've configured like the bathroom being here and stuff. And so I just quite often found that it felt even smaller because the light was hanging down so low. So I don't typically like lights that are almost practically stuck to the ceiling, but that's what we've gone with for this, just because I want it to feel as big and like kind of, yeah, just as big as possible. Here is where, well, first of all, we're gonna have like a rug that comes down here. My slippers there, I'm not allowed to use them in here because I just worry that they're too dirty. Yeah, so here I've got a rug which I've already got upstairs, and then I have a table that I want to upcycle, and that is going to go there. But the problem is things like this, drying our laundry, ironing board, and other arrays of junk all used to live in here, even when we were doing the work in here. And now obviously we don't want to clutter it with that junk. And pretty much the only place to put it is either up in the room that we are sleeping in or the room across the hall here. And I'm a little bit scared to show you this, but it's a nightmare. And basically I can't get the ironing board up in there. I can't put this up in there without it just being in the complete way. So I need to do a bit of rejigging because I can't finish out here and finish the cabinet and do the cabinet and stuff until this space is clear out here. But then I can't clear this space out here until everything's sorted in there. Right, let's go up to the next level. Here is a bit of an update. So here we have, James has put his pictures up above the stairs, which are really cool because they have always been together when they were in the flat, and then when they got here they couldn't live together until we sorted stuff out, and now they're all back together again, so they're lovely. You see a bit of the room behind me, but let's take you now to see the bookcase wall. Ta-da! This is the practically finished bookcase wall. So yeah, we had this dream of having the door in the middle. Obviously we've got the light switch as well, and yeah, James has built the bookcase around it. We will obviously add books to this in time, so there's more to come in here. But yeah, he styled it himself, bless him, but he did this all himself, and I am so impressed, and I just think it looks epic. Right, so I think I'm gonna wrap this up here, guys. I'm really sorry that it's been a bit more of a kind of show and tell renovation diary rather than like my usual renovation diary, but I'm gonna turn this off now. And when I turn it back on, just moments later, I'm actually going to be doing stuff and sharing what we're actually doing. So yeah, thank you for joining me. I'm sorry it's been a long wait for the next one. I'm sorry it wasn't more like jam-packed with like cool and crazy stuff. But so take care, guys. Thanks for joining, and see you again soon. Mwah.